Like the.
The Commission on Equity meeting will commence in a few minutes. We're just waiting for one more commission member to make a quorum. Okay, well, I'd like to call the Commission on Equity City of Lacey meeting, Monday, June 24th. That's a little after 5:30. I'd like to read the land acknowledgement that we do every meeting. We, the city of Lacey, are on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including Nisqually Indian Tribe and the Squaxin Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed and relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of the dispossession, forced removal, abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that the community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854. Now I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda, the previous minutes and the consent items.
I move approval of the agenda, the previous meeting minutes, and the consent items.
Can I hear a second?
I second.
Right,
I second.
Yeah. So here the approval of the agenda and the previous minutes and the consent items. Our number.
Chair, really quickly, we have
Yep.
a first and a second, and we'll need to have ayes and nays.
Oh, well, yes. Could I have all those in favor of approval, say aye.
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 All those opposed? So moved then. Next item is a public comment. And do we have any public, we didn't receive any written public comment.
We did not receive any written public comment.
No. Is there anybody on the phone or the
Nobody signed up remotely. However, we do have one individual who would like to provide public comment here tonight in person.
okay. And introduce yourself and
You want me to stand or sit?
go ahead, stand. That'd be great.
My name is Karen Pritchett and I had talked to Mr. Brown at the Juneteenth celebration that they have. And I had suggested, because I've seen it done in Seattle, they have a Tacoma one and they have one at Federal Way now, but doing a Juneteenth pageant, a scholarship pageant. And it's a great
Could you
way.
speak up just a little bit? I'm
Oh, sorry, my voice is a little scratchy. I was trying to put together some, a pageant for the Juneteenth celebration. I've done pageants myself. I'm actually the current Mrs. Senior World. I'm 70 and I'm still out there volunteering. And I thought, you know, why not do a pageant that has a scholarship to it like they do up in the Seattle area in Tacoma and offer that to the girls down here? I don't know exactly. I've been kind of dabbling on who I could get for judges. I actually already have a couple sponsors that will give gifts and try to see if I could get maybe St. Martin's to do a scholarship, or if there's contacts on the commission where they could contact different businesses that might be able to do that. But I thought, well, I'll start get on the ground running and I'll start it and have a whole year to get a plan. But I would just like to see if that's something that might be possible. And I think it would be a great addition to the celebration.
Great, thank you for those ideas and connecting with Commissioner.
Yeah, I'll coordinate a meeting with you and the Fred Harris Lodge who spearheads this thing, and see if something can be worked out. So we'll get your contact information today and I'll schedule it.
Be perfect. I'm excited. Like I said, I put the cart before the horse. I started getting stuff lined up already when I talked to you. I was like,
Love it.
I'm on it.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anyone else signed up today? Nope. Right, number 6, the inspirational item. We have Commissioner Hedgewood offering us some inspiration.
Hey folks, so because June is Pride Month, I have a few quotes here from the lovely Miss Marsha P. Johnson, who is a trans woman of color that was one of the original participants in the uprising at the Stonewall Inn in New York City, and a gay rights icon actually from that time period and to today time immemorial. So just a few quotes here. One of them is on changing history. She says that history isn't something you look back at and say was inevitable. It happens because people make decisions that are sometimes very impulsive and of the moment, but those moments are cumulative realities. On equality, she says, how many years has it taken for people to realize that we are all brothers and sisters and human beings in the human race? On human rights, she says, you never completely have your own rights, one person, until you have all of your rights. And then, let's see here. And on Paying It Forward, she said that I'll always be known for reaching out to young people who have no one to help them out. So I help them out with a place to stay or some food to eat or some change for their pocket. And they never forget it. A lot of times I've reached my hand out to people in the gay community that just didn't have nobody to help them when they were down and out. And then on her own legacy, she says that they call me a legend of my own time because there were so many queens gone that I'm one of the few left from the 70s and 80s. And then finally, on the fight for freedom, she says, no pride for some of us without liberation for all of us. And that's that. Yep, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to ask for a volunteer for next month's inspirational item.
I can do it.
Okay,
Can I?
great, good.
Am I allowed to?
Yes, that means you're gonna be in the meeting then, right?
Be in the meeting.
Yes, of
Okay.
course.
Okay, all right, yes, that would be great. All right, next in line is the business items. First is the Equity and Inclusion Program Manager introduction, and I'd like to introduce Rick Walk to
Well,
take it away.
thank you, commissioners, and yes, very excited to introduce Veronica Han as officially as our new Equity and Inclusion Program Manager. Veronica is going to be working in the city manager's office, helping us with some internal and external work, fostering that culture of equity and inclusion. Internally, looking at employee health, culture, providing support and guidance for programs and engagement practices within the organization, as well as providing some advice on things such as training and some curriculum work, as well as some of our hiring practices. And then externally working with some of our economic development initiatives, trying to create connections out in the community, helping out with our community engagement programs, whether it be like community forums you talked about earlier, as well as some of our larger comp plan engagement efforts that's coming up. So kind of help give us advice and try to create connections in the community and focusing on bringing more access to our local government services. Veronica comes with a wealth of experience. She's for the last 7 years has worked for the state of Washington in labor industries and fish and wildlife. Through that work, she was a civil rights coordinator and has done community relations, language access programs, access to permitting and services to make it equitable throughout. As you think about accessing our public lands and opportunities for fishing and hunting, that there's a lot of diversity in our state of Washington that needs access and understanding what those permits and requirements are. And then also doing ADA and civil rights compliance within the organization. Prior to that, she spent 19 years as a trade consultant with the Canadian Consultant General down in Monterrey, Mexico, and help bridge the gaps with Canadian businesses to be able to make deals and transactions within Monterrey area in Mexico, as well as vice versa, and you know, bridging some of those cultural gaps and creating those partnerships through understanding. So, and there's also, she's a great volunteer, as we just So anyways, I want to take this opportunity to introduce Veronica. So she's going to be key, she's going to be key in also implementing, you know, the draft equity, inclusion, belonging strategic plan you all have been working on as well. And she's going to be kind of a steady force, both internally and externally to the City of Lacey's organization. So, Veronica. And I thought it might be nice, I don't know if she's had a chance to meet everybody yet, but it might be nice if the commissioners could introduce themselves and to Veronica. So.
Yeah, Annie Clay, we've been here almost the 3 years. My term is up in the end of December. Identify as a lesbian, retired, and just done a lot of different work in my in my careers, and now just giving back to the community in this way.
Cliff Brown, retired. I spent my career working in the insurance industry and human resources department, so that's my background. So now I just volunteer too much.
Something I say not enough.
Are you friends with Lonnie? Lonnie Spikes? No? Ah, okay.
Welcome.
Thank you.
My name is Thelma Jackson, and I was the original chair of this Equity Commission. This is my 3rd year. My term too is up this December. Formerly, I was a North Thurston School Board member for 20 years, from 77 to 97. I've lived in this community for 54 years, been engaged in a number of different kinds of activities, organizations, initiatives, you have it. Somewhat of an amateur historian, so I like to learn facts. So this Equity Commission has been a real joy for us to incubate and give birth to this new entity. And we're really proud of the fact that of the Equity Commissions in the county, Lacey's leading the way. And so it's been a very exciting, challenging undertaking, but the timing was right, and here we are. So we welcome you on board to pick up where Shannon is leaving off, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
So, well, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you.
So I know Veronica personally, and of course, this is very, very exciting to have someone like Veronica to the City of Lacey. You're right, Rick. She volunteers a lot, and she never says no to me when I ask her, like, we need to go to Seattle, we need to go to Tacoma. And she participated last year when we did the immigrant community, so she's really nothing stranger to us. So I'm very excited. For me, I mean, I think she knows, all of you know, but I don't know. I'm women, minority, immigrant community, and everything else. I don't want to really define myself and say I'm this or that, but I'm with everyone, people. So whereas there's kindness and love, that's where I want to be, and I want to be part of that. So yeah, that's me.
I agree 100%.
John, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Veronica. Welcome. Wait, I guess I can run the camera. There we go. My My name's John Hagwood. My term ends at the end of next year. I'm one of the 3 commissioners that extended our initial term to be 4, and then after that it'll be 3-year term. I identify as gay and a person of color. I'm a father, a husband. My day job, I do cybersecurity. And with that, kind of like integrating equity into that work, and what I have termed tequity, as it were. And so I bring kind of that experience and that angle, I guess, to the commission itself, as well as being a queer person of color. My father was adopted out of the Philippines way back in the day. I'm also 3rd generation military, and now a military spouse as well, I guess. So I've kind of hit the trifecta as far as that's concerned. I have participated on various, panels and committees for the city of Lacey and for my alma mater, and even my former work sites for, I don't know, as long as I've been a working professional, I guess, and kind of into the equity space. And so, being here as a commissioner is kind of a culmination of that. And it's great, the work that we're doing, and looking forward to working with you to make this a better place for everybody.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Great. And
My turn. So, well, you know, I'm Veronica Han. I'm originally from Mexico. So like Kim, I'm a woman, I'm an immigrant. This is a super honor and an opportunity that I've been waiting for 12 years. I moved here 12 years, and that's as long as it's taken me to get to where I wanted, which is here. So I'm super honored, I'm super excited, very grateful. There's so many things that I want to do. There's so much work to do as well. A lot of it is gonna be teamwork. I know it's something that it's gonna take time. The changes are not gonna happen overnight. So just steady, one step at a time with your support and the community support. My experience, like Rick mentioned, it was with the Canadian Embassy in Mexico. I started the consulate in Monterrey, Mexico. I was there for 19 years. Before that, I worked a lot with several embassies in different countries in the state, where I was able to position the state in the international trade arena. A lot of economic development, so that's one of my passions. But really, for me, it's all about the people. And like Kim said, an environment where there's the human component of equity and love and inclusion. That's really, even as an immigrant, I've been having some experiences that I would like to prevent from future generations and other people in the city. So I have some of the life experience, some of the work that I've done with the state, and I did learn a lot with the state, working as a civil rights coordinator, implementing the language access programs in these agencies, and especially with Fish and Wildlife, and also regarding ADA compliance. So very, very honored, very grateful, very excited.
well, it seems like just a perfect time to come into the organization. We're just about to finish our strategic plan, and you can be the champion for us. And we have a lot of work for you to do within that, identified within that strategic plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to say, I went fishing today. I didn't catch anything, so.
Where did you
Have someone to
go?
blame it on.
Where did you go?
Offered, like.
Tours.
Yeah, so.
All right.
You can try Word Lake.
Oh, yeah, tell me about that.
Of course, I
I'm in a
will.
new spot. And did you bring the flowers?
Yes.
Yes.
You did?
Right.
Some precedent now, like,
I see.
Penny?
Yes.
I wasn't a part of the interview process or anything, but could I pose a question to Veronica?
Of course.
I'm
Well-
curious to know what interested you in this particular position, the Equity Commission, DEI, DEIB, it's 2 or 3 years ago, no one had ever heard of it. Now it's a thing for everybody everywhere. But what is it about Lacey's Equity Commission that interested you in applying for the position? Because we're off and running.
So I joined the state, as I mentioned, with working for LNI in 2017. And when I started working there, I had the opportunity to help one of the business resource group called the Latino Leadership Network, because I'm Latina. And at the time, it was the work on DEI was just starting. And I saw that the business resource group didn't have any support in the state. So I started getting them all together. That's how I met Kim. And we created a business. I was able to get the support, reached out to OFM, get the support of OFM, which was actually Robin Vasquez, the council woman. Councilwoman. She was at the time with OFM. So with her support and OFM support, we created a business plan, all the BRGs that we started working together. And I saw what a great influence and what a great support we were able to get for the BRGs and the state employees. And I was able to see how we can make things happen, working together, joining efforts. And we were so successful that the governor issued an executive order to accept the BRGs. He gave us a budget, I think it's $1 million, right, Kim, for all the BRGs, when in the past we had no money at all. So it just became a huge, huge thing. It took a life of its own. They created a new position for a coordinator, but it was like something very small and it grew into something so big that really affected change and benefited the state employees. And I saw that Lacey was doing a lot of work and it was walking the talk. It wasn't just the fashion. It wasn't just, this is the trend. No, it was like actual work in the most diverse community in the area. That's why I liked Lacey, or why I chose Lacey, because I knew you are very serious about it. I saw the changes that you've been implementing, all the work that you've been doing. So I can say that 70% was that, and 30% is because I wanted to work with Rick as well, because I know what I did know about his career and his success, his path, his commitment. So for me, honestly, it was 70% what I've seen the city do and the diversity that it has, but also the leadership, because you need someone as committed and the support and the leadership. And the fact that this position was reporting to him, it showed to me that how serious the city is also about this type of work. So it wasn't under another director. So that was also a component.
Thank you.
I appreciate the question. Thank you.
Anyone else?
She thought the interview was over. I'm just meeting her for the first time and just wanted a little bit of her background as well. So thank you for indulging my question.
Okay. Moving on, now we have Dr. Antonio Sandifer from North Thurston Public Schools to give us kind of an update of what's going on.
Okay, so we're gonna see you that.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. We're out of school now, so the building was a lot quieter today at the district office than all the teachers and kids are gone. But I'm Dr. Antonio Sandifer, the Director of Equity and Languages in the North Thurston Public School District. So what I'm talking about today is focusing on educational equity, because when the word equity is so broad, it's so big, it's thrown out so many different places that people don't really know what it means. So I'm going to give a definition of what is educational equity that we focus on in our district, which is ensuring that every student has resources and support needed to succeed. To succeed is our equity work. Every day and in every classroom, our district staff remove barriers to success by providing these critical supports and resources to our students. We also work tirelessly to foster a culture of inclusion and belonging, create a safe and respectful environment where every student can thrive. So our biggest piece is on removing the barriers. So as I talk tonight and different things you're gonna see, we're focusing on, we gotta remove barriers so that our kids can succeed, and that makes it equitable. This is in the way. Keep moving it. So one of the things that we did was we partnered with this group called Embracing Equity. For the last 2 years, this is a group out of St. Louis, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It's a national group online. And we did some equity audits of our schools, where we had staff and students too. River Ridge High School was one, Chinook Middle School was last year. And what we did was they took this survey to see what is going on in our building, how did they feel, how the kids feel, how the staff feel, what knowledge did they know about equity, what was happening, what racial things were happening. So we can't address it if we don't know that it's happening. So we begin to pinpoint that. And at the end of last year, it was such a great success in those 2 buildings. They began to do a lot of work on the outcomes and the data. I said, wait a minute, we need to do this at the district office. So we did it this school year at the district office level. Because what I realized was we have people that's serving all the school buildings, but they had never done any equity work. People in our HR departments, people in our finances, accounting, and they just haven't done it. So we did the equity audit at our district office this year. And from that, we was able to come across and identify a few things. So these are some of the 3 areas that we identified that needed some work. There was barriers in the way that we need to fix. Implemented anti-racist training, anti-racism training. So we provided 3 anti-racism training, mandatory training. So everybody has to get up off their desk, leave your desk, come down to the for 3 mandatory trainings around anti-racism work. What does that mean? Well, again, that's a new word as well, anti-racism. What does that mean? What does that look like? And we talk about some of the basic things, biases, microaggressions, things that many people have heard a little bit, but really don't know what they are, and begin to do some internal work on our own. We built mechanisms for team members across the road to have that individual work recognized. So many of our people, in our district, we don't have a lot of people of color. It might be 10% of the staff there are people of color, but many of those people did not feel like their work was valued or other people was taking credit for their work. So we intentionally brought that up and began to do some work around giving people more praise and recognition and affirmation for their work that they're doing in the building, as well as we allocated time, budget, money, and resources to be fully integrated into this anti-racist approach. We developed leaders in all employees in the work of handling race-based incidents, making this work public and central to the work of developing and sustaining an anti-racist culture. So I didn't want to read all of that, I was just talking. So we intentionally did that work, and as I said, the first one we talked about was, first and foremost, what is race and what is racism? Many of those, and luckily we have a lot of students that say, oh, that teacher's racist. Well, what do you mean by that? Just because you did something wrong don't mean she was racist. This is what racism is. So we did a training first and foremost to our staff to break that down. We talked about biases and what is implicit biases, microaggressions, and intent versus impact, which is a huge piece that happens in the workforce every day. People say, well, that wasn't my intent. Well, I'm sorry, but this is the impact and how it caused and the repercussions of that. So we have to make people become aware of that. So we did those trainings throughout the year, specifically for the district office, because this training has been happening in the building level, but not at the district office level. So all of us mandatory to attend that this year. We also continue for the last 5 years, I guess, we've been doing equity mini lessons. These are lessons that are required every building has to do. And this year we were focusing on ethnic studies. And I'm gonna talk about ethnic studies a little bit later. Ethnic studies, and we are required the STI, which is Since Time Immemorial curriculum. It's around our Native American students and Native American culture. All districts in Washington State for the last several years have been required to do it, but most districts have not been able to do it. And we have a dynamic partnership with the Nisqually tribe where I'm getting ahead of myself, but that part of our STI work was also mandatory training that every teacher had to do it. And so I think we have about 500 certificated teachers in our district. We took all 500 of our teachers to the Nisqually tribe at the beginning of the school year to be trained by the Nisqually people on their reservation, on their culture. And we've done about 6 or 7 field trips throughout the school year where we've taken our kids out to the tribe as well, participating in all different aspects of tribal culture and learning about the tribe today. Dual language. So last time I was here, I think someone said, we talked a lot about the language program. Well, if you can't communicate with me, that is a barrier. If our kids can't communicate, that's a huge barrier. And so to them to be able to succeed. So my part of my job is in the languages as well, not just teaching them the languages, but making sure that they can acquire and understand how to communicate in the world and to be successful. So we offer a dual language immersion program at 3 of our schools next school year. Lydia Hawk has a dual language program where 50% of their day, the kids are learning Spanish in their classroom. The other 50% of their day, they're learning English. As we quickly know that Spanish will become the dominant language in our country very soon. Oh, it's over surpassing English. And our students, even our English-speaking students, need to be able to speak both languages, and plus statistics and research have shown how much more economically and career-wise they can advance being able to speak more than one language. And we have multiple of our students that are multilingual in our district right now. You have a question?
So, so far, is it just Spanish?
It's only Spanish right now.
What
Yes. Yeah.
What's your plan for other languages?
Yeah, part of it is because it's the matriculation, the K-12 plan. And right now, we don't, in this community, don't have enough people of other languages to teach at all 12 grade levels. But Spanish, we have enough to do that at multiple sites. And up north in Highline in Seattle, they have Vietnamese communities, Korean communities, where you can pull your teachers from that. We don't have that community down here yet. But once we get those communities, we're definitely open and willing and wanted to expand. Because I really wanted to bring Vietnamese, but when we done the research on it, we just didn't have enough staff to sustain a long-term program. You don't want to start something and then we have to stop it because we don't have the staff. That answer? Okay. And then we're opening a site at Pleasant Glade Elementary next school year. Same thing, where the kids will be 50%. Well, actually, I've modified, it's gonna be 80% of their day in kindergarten is gonna be in Spanish. So in the class, they're gonna be nothing but Spanish all day. So it's very difficult, it's uncomfortable for these little kindergartners at first, but they'll be able to learn the language much quicker when they're completely immersed in it. And then for our native speakers, those that speak Spanish, those kids thrive in that environment because that's their first language or their native language in the classroom. But they also would learn English.
How are parents in these schools?
Yeah.
Are they supportive? Are
They
they being
they are,
excited
it's,
about it?
the English side is very supportive. Our English parents are loving it. Parents are, God, my kids are in the 5th grade. I wish they had this program back then. They want their kids to be in it. On our Spanish side, those families are a little hesitant because historically in the Hispanic families in their communities, some of those families that was taught that they do not speak the language anymore. I have several Spanish-speaking friends, Hispanic friends that do not speak their native language because their parents would then teach it to them. And we want to take that barrier away from them and go back to speaking their language. So it's kind of hard sometimes maybe get our Spanish people to do this program so they can feel like that we want to show that your kid, we bring in the culture into it, not just the language, but the culture is critical in these classrooms.
If we're connected to that, I think, when we're looking at these programs, is it every student goes through it or is it more of an opt-in?
It's an opt-in type of program, yeah. As I said, we don't have enough to do every kid in the building, so especially it's what they call a cohort. So once you're in kindergarten, you stay with that group all the way through 12th grade. The goal, and this research have shown us that we're almost there. After next year, we'll be moving the whole cohort to Nisqually Middle School. And by the time they get in the 8th grade, the goal is for them to be fluent, or the whole cohort be fluent in Spanish and English. Not only be able to speak it, but read and write in the language as well.
So, so you mentioned maybe there are not enough students or the teacher?
Teachers, not enough teachers.
Not enough teacher.
Yeah, no, more than enough students.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay. Because like Korean is second largest language other than Spanish in city of Lacey. And so to hear like not in, so.
Yeah,
that-
it's the issue of having teachers that are qualified from Washington State to teach Korean. Even though I speak Korean, don't mean I'm qualified or have the certificate to do it. That's one of the problems.
Do you have programs to like foster the teacher qualification?
We are working on that right now. We're in partnership with St. Martin on that, but it's not in languages, unfortunately. It's just to get them teaching credentials, but not in languages.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
You spoke earlier about trying to remove the barriers that's limiting student success. And you talk about limited staff in certain languages. Has the district identified the barrier that's preventing language speakers in the community, but because they don't have a certain certificate, aren't allowed to come help the schools that will help the children?
Mhm.
Have you identified that as a barrier
Yes, ma'am.
from a policy perspective, from a state law perspective? And how is that being addressed?
Yes, we have identified as a barrier, but unfortunately, that's from OSPI, the governor's office, never had to make those determinations. We can't just bring a person in the building because they have the language speaking, that's out of, no, the state law required that they have to be a certificated teacher. Now, we do bring in Nisqually language. The state have allowed Nisqually to certify their own language teachers. So we have Nisqually language at River Ridge High School and Evergreen Elementary, where those certified teachers by the tribe, because the state have given them that authority, comes into our building. So we will, and we do have, like I said, we're partnering with St. Martin right now, and we have a grant we just got from OSPI to get more teachers. And once they help them pay for them and go back to school, and they're more than welcome, they can take whatever part of endorsement they want to. So we have identified that as a barrier, and we're working on helping us to financially, that's the biggest barrier, financially support them to go back to school.
The barrier I'm speaking of, you can't just bring anybody in without meeting certain qualifications. But for a diverse district like North Thurston, that is now majority minority, to, through State School Directors Association, whatever, where policy can be affected, to say we have communities out here that the barrier we're seeing is that some of the needs of our students, we can't meet because of this barrier that requires this particular certificate. What do we have to change at the state level to remove that barrier? So a district such as us can have access to the community people who are skilled in these languages and interested in coming into the schools to help. That's a barrier being identified too, and that's why I asked what's happening there to remove that barrier. You in partnership with other diverse districts that are facing the same problem. Otherwise, that requirement is gonna stay there. And it continues to be an excuse as to why we can't do this, that, or the other. So it's a higher level barrier.
Mhm.
But given the changing complexion of the state of Washington and certainly Thurston County and this community, let's talk to our local elected state officials. Whoever needs to, but it's a barrier that really needs to get some fire under it. So, we know we have language speakers in the community, but they can't overcome that barrier.
That's a great point, actually. I didn't even think about that. So I've been teaching Korean for many, many years. I have students that I teach, of course, but I don't have the certificate. But I do it, voluntarily on weekends and stuff. So definitely
You're a typical example.
exactly, we have resources, and I think I do jobs because the kids still come every semester. So that's something maybe that can be considered. That definitely is a barrier. If I would
Yes.
reach more kids,
Okay.
I could reach more kid. That's a great example.
So who does the school district need to partner with to get some conversation going to say, this is a barrier we're facing in this community? Help us to get to whatever level of policymaker we need to make them aware of this problem so that we can remove this particular barrier that's preventing us from getting the language needs of our kids met. So barrier was in your definition of equity. Yeah, removing the barriers, preventing, this is a barrier. Let's not just talk about it and dismiss it because it comes out of OSPI.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not able to fight and to fix every barrier right there. I have a job that I'm
That's why
trying
I
to do.
say, who can you partner with?
I will.
So the
Yeah,
community
but I feel like you're
can
trying
help
to
the
attack me.
district address that barrier because there are many kids being affected by this language barrier.
I
And
understand.
you've identified as to why the district can't be more responsive for certain languages. So this equity committee, we've been trying to think outside of the box, and not just use words because they've been around, but it's like, so what we gonna do about it?
Okay, yeah, but there's so many barriers that we have that I'm fighting, a lot of them. And this is one, you're right.
But
And
you
we are,
can't do it alone.
you're right.
Partnership.
We are. And that's why I said we do have our legislation person that sit on the school board that goes there and assists at the legislation down in Olympia. And I will share this with her as one of those barriers and see what area, because I know it's bringing up that I don't know exactly which department there, but I can definitely partner, like you said, and figure out which department and continue this conversation, because we're not the only district, you're right,
No.
that's doing it, having this barrier.
No,
We're not.
thank you.
Mhm. Again, I was speaking on the Nisqually languages next. So we have partnered with this, and that was a barrier as well. The Nisqually people, their languages, and the Lushootseed language is, what most of the tribes around this region speak. And some tribes don't have any more fluent speakers, and they want to be able to bring that back. So again, we were able to partner with them, and in legislation, those barriers were removed because they were able to get a law saying that the tribe now, so there are opportunities and there's some work that we can do to get those barriers removed, I'm sorry. Since time immemorial curriculum, again, all of our district administrators were trained at the Tribal Cultural Center. So we took all of our district principals, administrators, superintendent out there, as well as all 500 of our certificated teachers to the tribe to learn about their cultural center. And throughout the year, we have an STI committee with several Nisqually tribal members on that committee helping us direct this work. So we're not just guessing out of our head what we think. No, we have the actual tribal council members on our committee helping us direct the work that we're doing with them. And then we have a joint board council member twice a year. And at the last one, Deb was retiring, our superintendent was retiring, and they gave her a blanket, which is one of the highest honors in their culture, to be wrapped in a blanket. That's a picture of that. Ethnic studies. So ethnic studies is we have about 88 teachers in our district have been trained to become ethnic studies teachers. So ethnic studies in our district is not a curriculum or a program. It's immersed into every grade level, all aspects of that teacher's teaching. So the teacher, we focus on the teacher's pedagogy, their whole mindset on how they teach and who are your students in your classroom. So you have majority Korean students, you have African-American students, whatever, you begin to immerse their community into the current curriculum that you have. We have to immerse that into that piece. So ethnic studies is an interdisciplinary framework for K-12 students. It develops culturally responsive, inclusive, vibrant, dynamic learning communities. And its purpose is to create a positive individual and social transformation. To date, like I said, we have over 88 teachers in our district that have been trained in this. It's voluntary, and each year we have about 30 slots because we have to pay them to be trained, pay the trainers to go through this process. But I'm really happy that our district is continuing to support this work, and our goal is that all of our teachers will be trained in this. And to see the work that our kids are doing in those ethnic studies classrooms is really amazing. How they're not just taking a traditional text now, but they're actually being able to immerse themselves in it, and you see their culture and their community comes out in that work. And this is just the framework that we use. It's called the TI Week. I can't even pronounce it now. It's about teaching critical consciousness, interconnectedness through student-centered instruction, agency through critical practices, and then historical literacy development and unity through community are the 6 areas of the framework that they're focusing on in their teaching. And the teachers go through a year-long training, all year long, once a month. They're trained on this, and then throughout the following year, they have worked in cohorts to develop their lessons. Like I think Meadows Elementary is the school that's been leading this work. They have 2 teachers per every grade level that are certificated ethnic studies teachers. So they work together to build their curriculum and their lesson across that building. So eventually it would be considered our ethnic studies school in the district as the model school on how to do this work. We continue to do this in all of our elementary schools, and one of our secondary schools started this project this year called One School, One Book. So each month they take one of these picture books and they deal with race, cultural, sex, gender, ableism. So our kids are exposed to a diverse spectrum of stories and books around people for various months. So this month is Pride Month. We have a book on the Grandpa Camper, which was done back in January, that deals with a grandpa and who's gay, who has a lover. But when I tell family, of course, you get families calling you upset. Y'all teaching our kids to be gay? No, we're teaching our kids to accept everyone for who they are. And this young lady just loved her grandpa, and his partner died, and she just telling him how much that she loved both of them and who they were in her life, and how influential they were in her life. So that's what so each book is trying to show that how to respect our various cultures, our Native American culture, our Hawaiian culture. So every month and every year we have 3 years worth of different levels of the books. So different schools on different levels of the books that they read. So our kids are exposed to that's happening on a monthly level at every building at the elementary level. Again, we continued our community cafe work. We've done that for several years. We've had lots of cafes. This year, our community cafe is typically hosted by parents and volunteers. In the fall, we focus on increased growth, not community cafes, community conversations. The community conversations are basically for our school board to hear from the community as well. And in the fall, they did one on increasing growth rate for all students in math and English language arts. And in the spring, they did one around increasing percentage of regular school attendance. And then for our community cafe, we focus on our military families. We have a high military community here in the Lacey area. And we wanted to hear, do they feel like they're being included? What can we do to support our military families, especially as those students and families are transitioning so much, families are PCSing, and how do we support these students to make sure that we're doing what we need to do and the schools are aware that the family is PCSing? And this is the part of our of equity work, removing those barriers. If a kid, father has PCS now, they're coming to school, they're upset, and we're trying to figure out what can we do to support those families. So that's what that was. And all of our community cafes, the harvest that we collect goes on the website, and then we start outlining what we're doing to address each of these areas.
A quick question, do the school district have a relationship or partnership with the DoD schools? We students?
Not the DoDs, because the students on the base, they go to Cole Park School District, not the Department of the Defense. So we do have employees that are liaison, that goes to the military, and they have liaisons that come to us. Did that answer your question?
Yes, because I know my grandkids, you know, they move different states and now they're in Italy, but they are attending DoD schools.
Mhm.
So it's very smooth transition
It is.
from North Carolina to Italy. It's
Mhm.
still DoD schools,
still
they
DoD.
lose nothing, you know, their records, everything is shared. So I was just wondering,
Yeah.
I don't know, does JBLM still have elementary schools on
They do.
post?
Yeah.
And then, so they go to middle school, is there a smooth transition?
Yes, because those students are on the Cole Park School District. So
Okay.
when they go to middle school, they go there. And when they come to us from a DoD school, of course, all those records and stuff automatically come to us. If they come, down here to us, yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
But would there be instances where we have children of military families in our schools? We aren't DoD schools, but the same kind of movement and that kind of thing concern exists. So I think part of Cliff's question is, do you have a relationship with the DoD such that the military children in our schools, whether they're on post in Clover Park, no, they're here in North Thurston. And so the
Yes.
need to connect and partner with the DoD to make sure that as they're moving around from state to state and base to base. Am I right, Cliff? Is that some of what you're getting at?
Yes, exactly, yeah. So we have a military liaison, and that is her job. She works with Joy Base Lewis McCoy, and when those families are notified that they're being PCS here, and they got housing in our community, that person on that post contact our person, and we get that relationship set up so they can have a smooth transition. So we do have a person that's their job to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, we've had, we have the multicultural committee, which has been in the district for several years, and every year the district gives us money set aside to help support cultural celebrations. So part of the equity work is to make sure that we do cultural celebrations, and this is one that was at Meadows, just a few pictures, and they brought in the cultural foods, just like we do with our community cafes. Any community cafe we do, we want to bring in the culture, so we have cultural decoration, cultural themes of speakers and things, as well as cultural food. So this is one of their multicultural celebration that they did there. So just a few photos of that event. And they made some of, I'm not sure what they were doing with these flowers, I didn't attend the event, but they did several arts and craft activities for various cultures at this event. And almost every one of our schools in the district put on a cultural, some type of multicultural celebration this year. They were really big before COVID, and after COVID, we're gradually getting back. So I think this year, out of the 24 schools, I believe at least 20 of them did something this year. A big celebration or a reading night, family night, something of that effect, to bring in all the diversities in. And lastly, we're partnered with the University of Oregon. They're doing a research called Project React. Project React is a one-year whole school professional development intervention to increase racial equity in school discipline. As most of us in here know, when you look at most school data discipline, Black and brown boys get the most suspensions and most punishment. So we're doing it, we're partnering with these two universities, there's another one out of Michigan, I believe, that's doing this study. It works as part of the existing PBIS. PBIS is the program we currently have in our district, which is Positive Behavior Intervention Systems. That we want to doing all the positive behavior first to help them get acclimated or adjusted to the school climate before discipline even has to come into the picture. And we're looking at the data to identify which student groups that PBIS is currently working and which is not. Because when I said some student groups, some good, it just doesn't work for. Based off their culture, their background, whatever happens, it doesn't work. So we're gonna identify, because what we've done in the past was put it out there for everybody, do PBIS for everybody, and it might not work for everybody. So this group is gonna come in and begin to look at that data and see which group is it working for, which group is it not. Also implement the specific strategies that are most likely to make PBIS work for every student. So REACT stands for Racial Equity Through Accessing Data for Vulnerable Decision Points, Culturally Responsive Behavior Strategies, and teaching, I spelled that wrong, about implicit biases and strategy to neutralize it. Because a lot of time we have our implicit bias that we don't even realize, which leads to many of our Black and brown boys and our Black girls, now that number is increasing, being marginalized or separated, being suspended, or put into some type of disciplinary action. So this study is gonna help us to identify that and then bring in more training to our administration. So that's kind of a snapshot of what we're doing this year. Any questions?
You spoke earlier in your slide presentation about the equity training for the district staff, that you were doing it for buildings, but was this the first time you've done equity training for district staff?
To my knowledge, yes, ma'am.
So, okay.
Did the
How
school
do I
board
ask this?
participate?
Huh?
They did not participate in this equity training here, but I know they've gone through several equity trainings. Yeah.
So I have a question, disregarding the district staff and its diversity.
Mhm.
Would you say is poor, fair, good, very good? The diversity on the district staff, the
Oh, of
people
course,
who are
it's-
administrating.
Yeah, it's poor. Yeah.
That leads into a natural question then. What are the strategies in the district to go from poor to better, good, because it's been poor for decades. I said I was on the school board from 77 to 97.
Yeah.
And some of the feedback that I hear, particularly the Black community, I can't speak for other communities of color. That whole issue of the lack of staff that look like the students in the district is getting more and more insidious as the overall number of students grow. So what are the strategies at the district level to slowly begin to, something's gotta be going on, some kind of talk. And we aren't talking about, throwing certifications and qualifications out the window. But as an educational consultant for 30-some years around here, I found quite a collection of people of color as paraprofessionals,
Mhm.
many of which were a semester from a degree or a year away from a teaching certificate, but they were teaching assistants. And so when people say we can't find any, and I would say, bull,
Mhm.
they are right here.
Yeah.
You don't have to import them from some other community. They are familiar with the students, the parents, the district. So they just aren't certificated. They're over here as classified. And that's of all the ethnic groups that I found around. So what's the plan?
Yes.
5-year plan, 10-year plan, because the student population is racing real fast.
Yes.
So what's the plan so that 5 years from now, we still aren't talking about the staff to student ratio is poor?
Mhm.
What are we doing about it?
Yes, so I'm glad you asked, excellent, so there's a couple plans in place for that right now. I just completed a grant through OSPI to help financially support the paraeducators that are currently in school now. That's what the biggest barrier was, when you're a para, you have to do student teaching. I can't work on student teaching, so we were able to apply for this grant and we got it. That is specifically for Black and brown, BIPOC community. So that's the grant, and we also we're in a partnership with ESD 113 for regional one. Cause North Thurston is not the only one with this barrier, this whole region, and we are better shape than most of the other ones in this district when talking about teachers of color. So we're in a grant, which we don't know, I think they said next month, July, we'll know we got that one, close to $1 million grant that we're leading the way North Thurston is on hiring, again, same thing. Now, it's a lot of moving parts in that with the ESD one, but our focus is, we already have a partnership with St. Martin University where the teachers already in our district, they can go through St. Martin within a year and have their certification. We have teachers that are in the program right now that OSPI is going to reimburse them back the tuition starting July 1st. So we have plans in progress. We realize one of the biggest barriers is financial time, especially for many of our paras who have the credits, just maybe a few more short away from it. And I can't go back because I still need some type of money. So I gotta work, and it's hard to work and do teaching certification. So those, and I said, once we get the grant with ESD 113, we have a lot of, they even creating a whole center, a whole program there at ESD 113, specifically for BIPOC community teachers to raise up us more teachers and administrators in this area. So it's just a lot of work around that one now.
This may be beyond you, but it was huge back in November when we elected all female school board and some ladies of color. And with that, I would anticipate that they would be talking to you, the superintendent, about some new efforts to improve diversity in the school district at the administrative level. Is that a movement? Is that movement started? Is that afoot? Have you been contacted regarding that?
Yes, we've had conversations with several, I've had personal conversations with several school board members about that. And so they're on board with the plans of the direction we're moving in now. We're moving to do that. Again, like she said, it's a process. People gotta go back to school, but we are trying to move whatever way we can assist them to do it. Yes, the school board is definitely on board with that piece and would help send money that way if necessary.
Thank you.
I'll just ask one other question, so we don't prolong this particular agenda item too long.
We're glad you're here.
Yeah, that was really good information.
On the issue of the ethnic studies, in February, during Black History Month, the New Life Baptist Church had a pop-up Black museum for the whole month. We opened it to the community on Saturday afternoons, and a couple of days during the week, we opened it up to the school children for educational field trips. And it was amazing to see, and these were middle and high school students. It was very interesting as you move through the various exhibits with those kids to hear the oohs and the ahs. And the primary comment we heard from almost all those kids was, why don't we get some of this in our schools? I've never heard of this person, never heard of this issue, never heard of this occurrence. Why don't we get some, you know, I'm a senior in high school, about to enter the world. I never heard of these things. So to what extent are the ethnic studies being influenced by African Americans in the community that can help?
Yeah.
And there are a number of us in the community. And again, I'll point to myself. In the community, 54 years, school board for 20. I can count on 3 fingers the times I've been invited in the schools to speak to kids, right here. So, and I'm not alone. I'm not alone in the kind of talent and skill level that's in this community, in the African American community. And our children are suffering. We hear it all the time. We hear it from our parents. And so we can't go on like this. They are coming through, they're leaving, going, and it's part of being ill-prepared. It's a shortcoming in their education that they know nothing about their history. know nothing about their history. And so it's not a new issue. But here we are in 2024 now talking about infusing ethnic studies. And we've lost generations of African-American kids that's gone through here that's known nothing about, you know, the richness of their heritage and the people. So it's a real frustration in the African-American community for some of the stories we hear, some of the racial harassment, the name calling, that nothing's done by the administration. They just have to suck it up. And if they act out, they're the ones suspended and expelled because it looks like an unprovoked situation. So we're hearing this from our kids. And so we're hoping, we're optimistic that under a new superintendent coming in here, we can start a different level of conversation about the level of frustration in the African-American community about what's happening to and with our kids. And that's pre-K through high school, not just a certain grade level.
Totally agree. Yeah, first, I want to say thank y'all so much for the museum. It was beautiful. And I did put my money where my mouth at and paid for the buses, got the kids over there to do it this year. And I knew it was happening each year, but I didn't think to put it in my budget, but I did. And I made sure that we can have that. And we'll do it again next year as well, if y'all decide to do that piece. I also make sure that you was one of the people that got highlighted in every one of our schools this year. We did a morning announcement of people throughout the month of February of different African Americans, local African Americans. And you were one of the ones that we highlighted as one of our great historians, people in this community to use.
I learned that later.
So,
I would love to have come and visited some of those kids when they say, oh, you're Dr. Thelma Jackson, you know. And I didn't know they were reading about me. I'm just right down the street. Would love to come and mingle with those kids. And again, it's not just Thelma.
Exactly. Yeah,
A
it was
number of people in the community that can be a resource to the district if only, you know, you reach out.
Yes, ma'am. So we are continuing to do the work. And like I said, I live in this community, I have kids in this community, big old Black boys in this community that go through these issues as well. So I do know it's an issue and we're working hard on it. Like I said, I think as we get more Black and brown people into these buildings, the more we'll see the changes happening. And we're working on that as well. I'm fighting every day and I'm on all the interview committees, making sure that those people at least get the opportunity to be at the table.
Dr. Sandiford, you mentioned the, highlighting, individuals in the community, local history. That's certainly one of the goals that's identified in our draft diversity, equity, inclusion strategic plan and belonging plan. And so if you're going to do that again next year, we'd certainly like to have a discussion about ways the city might be able to partner and help with getting that out broadly across the community.
Okay, very good.
If I could just make one last comment, I promise this is it. We've talked in this equity commission about the fact that our concern about the schools lie in the fact that we know we can't have equitable communities if we don't have equitable schools. And while we know it's two separate formalized entities, they do overlap and cross-pollinate. So it might appear as though things going on in the schools shouldn't be of concern of the Equity Commission, but it definitely is. So somehow we've got to open up those lines of communication and share and support one another or whatever. But without equitable schools, we can't possibly have equitable communities. So that's where our interests lie. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. We will see you again.
Dr. Sandiford.
Love the update.
Come back next time, another committee meeting.
Mind just passing the mouse on over there, that'd be appreciated.
Have a good trip with your grandbaby.
Congratulations again. It's good to see you.
Okay, moving on, the report and about the community forum discussion. Listening time of the All Abilities that happened last month. Who's gonna
Why don't I start it off and then I'll open it up to
There we
the
go. Why don't
commissioners.
you start?
Thank you, Chair. Well, commissioners, I know you all remember, but for anybody who might be listening in the audience, if you recall back on May 20th, we had a community forum, and it was the All Abilities Community Forum held at the Virgil S. Clarkson Senior Center. Commissioner Hart and Commissioner Stolberg helped lead the planning of this forum. Unfortunately, they're not here tonight, so I'm gonna fill in for them a little bit, and then we're gonna pass it over to Miles Parker here too, who's gonna help us walk through the analysis. But just to give some background at this forum, we did it very similarly to the one that we had with our immigrant forum, where we broke off into small groups and we had tables where commissioners were at each table. There was also a city staff member as a note taker to write down what they were hearing, so that way the commissioners could really engage with the individuals and we could get some good information from each of the small groups. We were also joined by a couple of community partners. So we were joined by representatives from North Thurston Public Schools, Senior Services for the South Sound, Intercity Transit, and Washington State Department of Social and Health Services, Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. So individuals from these organizations, they came, they participated at the community forum, and then the second half of the community forum, they had a panel where they talked about the services that they provided in the community and then also answered questions from all of the community members. The community members who did attend, there were 10, including our partner representatives, were able to self-select at whatever table that they wanted to sit at and have a conversation. And through the conversations that we had at those tables, we had some notes taken. And so Miles Parker, who is our public affairs intern, has been with the city now for, I believe, 2 months, Miles, or longer?
No, since March.
So a little bit longer. So we're pushing 4 months here. So Miles had the opportunity to take the notes and to do the analysis and create attachment 1 that was included in your staff report. And so Miles is going to go over what attachment 1 had in it. So Miles.
Good evening, Chair and Vice Chair, as well as the Commissioners. My name is Miles Parker. I use he, him pronouns. And it is an honor to present the analysis of notes taken at the All Abilities Community Forum. It's important to note that these are summarized notes and do not represent the verbatim discussions, as I did not have the opportunity to attend that evening. The first question is, share 1 or 2 good things or experiences about being in our community. Community members shared that they felt welcomed, included, and accepted, and they shared that the city had provided quite a few amenities that they liked. For example, being local parks, being local libraries, as well as the senior center, as well as some cultural activities in art and visualizations like the pride flag. Is there anything else that you feel as if should be added? If not, I'm going to move on to the second question. The question was, I felt excluded in the community when, and many community members shared that they actually felt rather included in the community, but others did state that there was some things that were not as diverse and they would like to see much more diversity in the city. Some of those things being when same-sex marriage was questioned, when someone was asked to leave the restaurant for wearing a Muslim headscarf, no changing tables in the men's room, limited language access for non-English speakers, names that were mispronounced, and limited access to mailboxes. Is there anything else that should be added?
I don't know if you're gonna cover it later, but the ladies at my table, one was wheelchair. And she talked about the fact that the parks and other areas were very nice to visit. However, some areas don't have improved walkways, like, trying to do a wheelchair on gravel and things like that was quite difficult. And also some of the doors, the entrance ways were, I guess they're compliant, but not for someone in a wheelchair to be able to operate, the things that open the door. So there was some challenges with wheelchair bound.
Okay, absolutely. So more mobility. Okay.
Could I ask a question? What was meant by limited access to mailboxes?
Yeah, so from my understanding, let me go ahead and pull that
The
up.
residential mailboxes that,
Correct. Individuals who were rolling and accessing mailboxes, whether individual or grouped mailboxes, could be problematic based on roadways and road conditions, sidewalks, et cetera.
okay,
Miles, was there anything you wanted to add to that as well?
No, that's what the note said. Shannon, you covered it perfectly.
okay.
Are we okay to move on to question 3? Yeah, okay. I felt included in the community when. Many community members shared that they felt included for a lot of the cultural events as well as the All Abilities Forum, like inclusive forums, as well as the Sensory House and the Lacey Spring Fun Fair. Community members would like further inclusivity and expand options for all ability events. They would like more events that could provide resources for individuals. An example that was provided was more community resources for those with sight impairments. If there's anything else that should be added, feel free to let me know. Question 4 was, what helped you feel welcome in this community? A lot of individuals had a lot of positive feedback. To name a few, small acts of kindness, such as learning how to pronounce a person's name correctly, attending city events, much like the All Abilities Community Forum, talking to people and making connections and really getting to know who they were. I saw that on the notes on various pages, as well as showing interest in them and their life and making them feel seen. A lot of people said that the community events is what made them feel seen. Some of the events that were mentioned were the River Ridge Math Class, the Light Vehicle Parade, the Lacey Spring Fun Fair, the Boys and Girls Club, and the Discord community as in live streaming. Is there anything else that should be added?
It is about the math class that was so welcoming. I want to go.
Well, I know Commissioner Hegwood, you were part of that conversation. So was there any more detail on what was so fantastic about the math class?
Sorry, I had to find my mute button. If I recall, they just said that they really enjoyed math and they found kind of like comfort in numbers, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay.
The ladies at my table are transplants from Oregon. And they just really spoke highly of Lacey and being able to transition, become a part of the community, have things to do, transportation. They had a lot of positives to say about joining the community, feeling welcome.
Are we good to move on to question 5? Okay. Question 5 prompted, I would feel more welcome in the community if. A lot of communities did feel welcome. And I really appreciated that feedback, especially when they named quite a few cultural activities that we have pushed out. Being Juneteenth, the Korean War Memorial event, Military Family Day, as well as celebrating little accomplishments of everyday heroes, recognizing women in the community. I saw that a few times as well. More events for all abilities is something that someone shared that they'd like more push for that, as well as they would feel more welcome if the bus stops were closer for mobility purposes, completing sidewalks and making them much more accessible. A pride event, as well as a recognition of all religious holidays. Is there anything else that should be added to this list?
I think just to clarify on the point of the religious holidays, the point that was made was, you know, the school has Christmas off, but they don't have Eid off, for example. And so families that celebrate that, families would be forced to, you know, take their kids out of school because they're missing out on instruction. And depending on the holiday, that could be several days. So consideration of all faiths for holidays was that point, I guess, I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on to question 6, what are some of the biggest equity difficulties and challenges you've experienced in the community? The equity issues that the community members listed were wider stalls and bathrooms for wheelchair users, more accessible transit options, increased stops and frequency, later service, streetlights with crosswalks for audio directions, community common houses for all abilities, more restrooms in parks, resources for young children, health resources, language accessibility resources, more educational resources regarding transgender and LGBTQIA+ training and support, career opportunities for those in their 20s, more sport, recreation, and extracurricular opportunities. Is there anything else that should be added? Okay, all good. Question 7, in the community, what barriers have you experienced? When asked about the barriers faced, community members shared the following. A lot of, actually, I'd like to know for this one, a lot of individuals had stated that they wanted more humility and cultural acceptance and kind of taking, let me see, what's the correct word? More understanding, I suppose, as well as having more conversations and discussions on equity and understanding each other. More disability-friendly daycares and resources. Again, we see the accessible bus stops for all abilities. City events that can be more accessible. Information through print newsletters. Government systems are difficult to navigate, like Medicare. They would like more resources to navigate these things. Affordable housing, like mobile parks, more resources on that, as well as retirement options, which many people said that they struggle to find. Is there anything else that should be added?
I just want to ditto the challenge with navigating the Medicare system. I just went through that. It's complicated.
No, I believe it. I had a family member do the same. It's stressful. Okay, moving on to question 8. What would encourage or increase your ability to participate in more community decisions? Do you have any suggestions for solutions? A lot of folks said that they wanted more spaces to gather and connect and be able to have the resources to access certain things. For example, they wanted expanded internet access. I believe that also kind of connects with city information through print news sources. A lot of folks don't have access to the internet. Therefore, the need for printed resources is dire to them. They would like more ways to access this information, that being distributed at schools, churches, libraries, community areas, post offices, homeowner associations. Community members really want more expanded access to information.
And in different forms. I mean, we have the do we need interpreters some places, hearing interpreters, I mean, speech interpreters. And we have the line of, what do you call, closed caption sometimes, but I don't know that we have it right now on our meeting.
So it is enabled right now, so somebody on the viewer on the other end could turn it on. We
Oh,
just
okay.
turn it off right now unless we have somebody who wants it here. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. Those are kind of conditions.
The more gathering spaces to connect, it also was brought up when we had the forum last November.
They said that too.
Are we good to move on to question 9? Okay, perfect. What would make living in this community better for you? The community members discussed that they would like more gathering spaces across the city for individuals to share resources. Gathering spaces and sharing resources as well as accessing resources was a common theme throughout these questions, as well as being able to participate in activities. They would also like more music, like jazz, more musical and printed materials as well.
Yeah.
We used to have the jazz festival too. Is that ever new?
Bring it back.
People want the jazz.
Dixieland jazz, but it's still.
No, no. I'm not too big on banjo music.
Okay. And for our final question, they asked, what do you hope for the future in this community? Community members would like to see more access to wheelchair groups, enhanced medical supply banks, and an expanded dial life service, pardon.
Well, thank you, Miles, for running us through that. So Miles is going to be starting their Master of Public Administration here in the fall at the University of Washington. And we're trying to convince Miles that local government is the best level of government. And so thank you, Miles, for putting together this analysis.
Yeah, I just have a comment regarding, not only that forum, but others. We've put a lot of effort into holding those forums, listening and getting feedback, and we document it and things. But I think it's important that we look for every opportunity to share what we've done with some of this feedback. And how we've incorporated into events and activities that we do in the community. For example, the Juneteenth. Before, there were no information booths. Last year, 2 years ago, we had like 3. Okay, but we kept getting feedback, people wanted to be able to share resources in the community. So last year, we had about a dozen information booths. This year, I counted 23 or 24 resources in Thurston County, small businesses, in Thurston County and in Lacey. These, organizations and businesses had information booths. I'm part of the Juneteenth Planning Committee, and we intentionally, grew that number of information booths. Not vendors, but information booths, because of the type of feedback we've been getting that people don't know about the small African-American businesses and other resources that are offered in the community. And that gave a great opportunity for them to share that information with community members. And I just got a lot of positive feedback that, wow, now I know where I can go get my hair done. I know where I can do these types of things and other information there. So I think that we should be able to share those types of things at any and every opportunity we get, that we're trying to implement some of these things. We're pushing, to be able to share and giving these small businesses and other organization opportunity to highlight, what they do, to highlight their resources that are being provided in the community. Let the community know that this information not just falling on deaf ears.
I can just kind of add a little bit too, is you got Clifton said, but also you have the comp planning process coming up, and some of this information, make sure communicate. There should be some steps in, as the community economic development department develops a comp plan, some check-ins with the Commission on Equity to remember this information to make sure it gets communicated into that process as well as some of our partner entities. I think I heard some of the access and mobility is related to frequency of transit stops and access to transit stops. And so there's other aspects that we do in the city planning that we need to make sure this information gets integrated into and discussed and figure out strategies for implementation as well. I think that's something that don't want to be forgotten through this process of how that role of what the work you're doing brings over to the work, and it complements some of the work and engagement the other aspects are doing as well.
That was going to be my question about how might some of this information fold into the comprehensive planning process that's currently underway. So you anticipated that one.
And so, and Commissioner, I'm glad, Rick brought up that process. So as you all know, we've been tracking every comment that we've ever written down, every note that we have. And so we will happily provide that to the Community and Economic Development Department so that they can have that as a base for review. We've also included a lot of this information in the draft diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan as well. And then had all of the notes, was I think 4 months ago that we took a look at all of the notes and analyses that we had done for our previous community engagement. So we'll add these ones once approved to that packet, and we'll have, you know, those really quick summarized notes as well for reference, so people don't have to necessarily go through every single comment that we heard from all of our engagement here in the past.
And then on the transportation network is kind of an example of some history is, you know, as the northeast area grew and developed, there was no transit service over there. And so that became an issue several, no, 5, 6 years ago, probably more than that now. But how to get transit service, we started getting stories and input from people that said, hey, I live over here, but I have to take a bus to here, then ride my bike to here, and then walk over to there to get to a job, or, you know, those type of things. And so making sure we communicate to our partner jurisdictions that kind of have some of that, so they have the knowledge. And now we have transit over there, just started, I think, right at the beginning of the pandemic, but creating those loops to employment areas as well is very important. And if we communicate that, you have partners out there that can also implement that.
And when I'm around and about in the community and people talk to me about the Commission on Equity, they ask, you know, so what do you do? What's your relationship with the city council? You know, those types of things. And I always share with them that I think we have an excellent relationship with the staff, with the city staff. And that they come in here month after month and share their plans, what they're doing. They share what their staff looks like, the diversity, you know, the challenges they have, and they're pretty honest. And they take the feedback that we give them, and they don't get upset and bang on the table and run out, you know. They come back again to share with us some things that they're working on. You know, and it's just been a pleasure working with like Jenny for the Juneteenth and the things and the communications and how she you know works with the community and all. So I share that, and people from other jurisdictions, they go, really? You know, they don't share that same relationship that we share here in the city of Lacey. So that's a plus, and we'll just keep the hard questions coming now. We're not gonna like them.
Hard questions are good. Share your thoughts.
Thank you, Miles.
Thank you, Miles. Shannon, to our draft diversity.
Is the meeting over?
We have a few more items. Really close.
That was one of those hard questions, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, commissioners, I know we have been working towards creating the draft diversity, equity, and inclusion belonging. Let's try it again. Draft diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan for quite some time. Actually, the work on this started back in 2021. And like Commissioner Brown just pointed out, you know, through this process, we have been meeting with different departments, learning about what they have been doing, what the city does, what other partner entities and organizations do. We've also been doing extensive outreach and engagement with community members, starting with our first listening sessions and then going to our community forums that we've been hosting the last couple of years. And tonight we have a full plan for review. I did bring 2 hard copies here. We'll go over them digitally as well, but I know a couple of commissioners wanted to take a look at what they would look like in a hard copy format. And I do want to say, us printing it out, realized that we have a few things that we need to tweak on the design. So it was a really good idea for us to take a look at the printout. What I did want to highlight, and unfortunately, Donna Feliciano just left. Hopefully Donna will step back in. But Donna has taken all of the work that we've been working on and made it look just absolutely fantastic. And so you are looking at Donna's efforts to make this document really come alive and pop visually. So I do want to extend my appreciation to all of the work that Donna did on creating this document. I also want to say thank you to Veronica. Veronica and our new communications manager, Ty Keltner, also helped review since our last meeting, just to kind of catch all of those last minute items, and then also make sure that we were having technically correct wording. And so it was just really helpful in getting some ideas and thoughts. So I do appreciate their efforts as well. So where we are, so number one, our recommendation for tonight is to adopt, to motion to recommend that we bring forward the draft that we're gonna be reviewing to the Lacey City Council for review and for recommendation of adoption in the future. Just really quickly, the purpose, as you all know, of this plan is to create a strategic guide for the city to advance and support equity efforts in the greater Lacey community for the next couple of years. And we've talked a lot about this document being not just something that we've outlined some strategies and some actions, but that we want to have continued conversations and then also continued check-ins in the future. And so we'll see some elements that have been created as part of the document to really help us increase that connection and accountability and transparency. So what is in the plan? So I want to just go over each of the sections, although I know you all are very well and familiar with what's in the plan. But please feel free to ask questions too as we're going through here. But in our strategic plan, what you will find is you'll find a land acknowledgement starting here on the first couple of pages. You'll also find acknowledgements. These are all of you all who helped work on this plan, our equity work group that also helped start the Commission on Equity, all of our staff members who worked on the plan and department directors, and then also, if you remember Tevin Medley from the Athena Group, who really helped jumpstart these conversations very early on and helped us lay the foundation for our mission, vision, and our values that were incorporated into the document. We've added, since the last time you've seen it, a table of contents. Now people are able to navigate really quickly through the document. We wanted to wait till we had all of the elements in place before we added that, and now it is here. We moved up the introduction, like you all mentioned at the last Commission on Equity meeting. It had inadvertently gotten pushed back as we added more and more items, and so we brought this right back up to the front. And it talks about, again, what the purpose of the plan is and what activities and really high-level overviews how we got here. It also unpacks everything that is in the diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging strategic plan, from our vision, our mission to our equity areas, our goal areas, et cetera. It will, at a future date, pending council direction, include also a Lacey City Council message. And so we want to make sure to get some feedback from the council on what they might want to include as part of that message here in the future. And so we will fill that out once we've had an opportunity to have a conversation with the council. It includes the Commission on Equity's message, as well as information on just the Commission on Equity generally and why the Commission on Equity was formed and what the purpose has been, and then also highlights all of the activities that you have been working on since the group was formed back in 2021. I do want to point out here on the Commission on Equity message, we have a little bit of a blank space here where we're hoping we could get some signatures from you all so we can add it to the document. So you've signed off on the Commission on Equity message. So for those of you who are here today, don't leave tonight without signing a piece of paper that I have. And for those of you who are attending remotely, we'll send out a message via email as well to get a signature. The plan has the vision and the mission, which I know we worked early on. We spent a lot of time really trying to get these elements correct before we moved on to the rest of the plan. We also established values, and as part of the values, we have a couple of paragraphs that describe what the values are, but then we also highlighted in quick bullet points what the values were as well, here in the closer look at the values. We established 4 goal areas, and the goal areas are workforce and work environment as the first one. The second one is community access and engagement. The third one is policy, programs, and services. And the fourth one is livability. And as you all know, within each of those goal areas, we have multiple strategies. And within those strategies, we have multiple benchmarks. And within those benchmarks, we have our baselines. And we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. What's included with the goal is a goal statement, the sub areas that I just mentioned, and then also what the city's role is. So we had a good conversation as part of this process of the city being a leader, the city being a partner, and the city being an advocate. And we get into more detail a little bit later on, but it identifies what the city's primary role is. I do want to highlight that that doesn't mean that there aren't occasions where the city might not be a partner or an advocate in one area, but that we're focusing on kind of the primary. So when we're looking internally, we know the city is going to be a lead. When we're having to work with external partners, as an example, the North Thurston Public School District, we may be more of a partner, we may be more of an advocate. We have a breakdown into the sub areas and the strategies. So the reason we put this up front was that if somebody picks up the document and they only read the first couple of pages, they'll at least know, hey, what are our goal areas? What are our sub areas and what are those strategies? And then we go into that much more detailed dive later on. But that way, again, if you only make it 20, 25 pages in, you've got a really good sense of what's in this document. And we did that for all of our goal areas. We also added definitions for what is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So each one of these, we provided the OFM glossary that was adopted by the commission as the glossary to use. And then we also created examples, real life examples, to point to community members who might want to understand the application. One of the things that we worked out through as a group is under the definition of equity as one of the examples, we used this great depiction from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. But some of the feedback we heard was, hey, this is great in kind of unpacking the concept, but we also want to make sure that we're highlighting actual histories of inequities and how they still impact our communities. And so through that, created an example of structural inequities, including redlining and racially restrictive covenants. And we provided an example of, the history here in the United States of redlining, and then taking a look locally at racially restrictive covenants. The plan also includes, as part of this section, a lot of helpful links that community members can go to access, number one, interactive maps. And also just more information, so they can go on and find GIS maps that will connect them to, the historical HOLC maps that were the redlining maps, or they can go to areas where there's, racially restrictive covenants that have been found in Washington State, just as a couple of examples. Something this group also highlighted throughout this process was, as I already mentioned, having an emphasis on transparency and accountability. And so what you'll find is a key element of this plan are ways that we are setting ourselves up in the future to make sure that we do reports and show, what we are making progress in, maybe some areas that we need to do some additional work and need additional resources. And even some things that, maybe we need to rethink on how we're approaching it or what the goal was based on some of the future baselines and information and updates that we received. So as part of that, we developed the status report with the idea that on an annual basis, we'd be giving an update on some of the elements and particularly the strategies within each of the goal areas. So not every single benchmark, but each of the strategies. There will be, some discussion on the benchmarks as part of the baseline updates. But we created 4 categories of the first one being successful, which is where most or all strategies are being actively practiced or completed, significant progress. So not quite everywhere, but getting there. And then progress where things are in motion, but we're not quite halfway, and then emerging where we're just starting to work on it, or maybe no work has been done yet to date, but we know that this is an important part that we're going to continue to work on in the future. We also have a breakdown to help readers just kind of understand what this plan is and what this plan isn't. And it just provides, as an example for the vision, it's to describe where we're headed and what the big picture goal is for the community. And what it's not is to provide specific details on the future of the community. So just how to use this plan, knowing that we want it to be a strategic guide, but it's not going to necessarily be prescriptive for each of these very high level things. We also included the process to how we got through here. We did provide some information on the Commission on Equity early on, but we also thought it'd be helpful for the community to understand that the Commission on Equity didn't just form. There was a group that laid a lot of work and effort to make sure that the Commission on Equity had a solid foundation. And then also what the process was with the commission briefly, and then some of the important dates that were identified in creating this plan. And then Commissioner Brown, this goes back to your point of highlighting what we heard and how we're using it. We have a pretty extensive section in here on community engagement. It talks about the engagement sessions that you held, our community forums and other events that we've done, like some surveys and some partner events. And then it provides a breakdown and analysis of all of that information by the questions that, Miles just went over at a high level. And also this connects back with the information, the task that the Commission on Equity was given by the council. So you can see we have information here on what the community said about ways to create a more welcoming community. We also included some example quotes too that we received, just to highlight direct verbatim words that we heard from community members. We did this for concerns about racism and inequity in the community, as well as increased participation from underrepresented community members, barriers seen or experienced in participating in decisions and the impacts on the community. And then, like I mentioned, we also provide a very good definition of roles that the city might be playing, whether it's a lead, a partner, or an advocate. From there, we go into key terms, and we don't provide all of the key terms, all of the terms in the OFM glossary, but what we do provide as one of the appendices is the full OFM glossary. Again, these were the key terms that you all identified as, hey, these are really important, that if somebody just reads a few of them as they're going through the strategic plan, these are the ones to read. So we go through all the key terms. As part of the process, this group also added a couple of additional key terms. So we added BIPOC, people of color, restorative justice, and accountability. And then we also added a section on Lacey demographics, where we pulled a lot of information from the US Census Bureau from some of their quick facts. We talked about some of the limiting factors of some of this information. For example, some of it being somewhat dated, but the only data that we had available for right now. And then we went into a much deeper dive of providing some graphs and tables that do a comparative of the city with Thurston County and then Washington State. And you can see we looked at things like population, race, ethnicity, age, and then a lot more.
It just occurs to me that a lot of this demographics are so, is so clear that, maybe each department needs a little manual that has those things, or maybe they do, but to reference all the departments. It's like you've done a lot of work to get it into a format and easy to read format, but I just really want to share this information with a lot of people.
And Chair, I can tell you, as we're going through the comprehensive plan and other planning policies too, they're looking at demographics and, in some cases, they're getting a lot more granular too than what's being provided here at this high level. And that can help them, make, kind of more informed decisions over a large surface area. So. From this point in the strategic plan, it goes into the details of what's in the goals, the sub areas, the strategies, the benchmarks, and the baselines. So it provides this table again that you've already seen, so somebody could understand at a very high level, what those goals and strategies are. Provides another overview of the status reports and then how to use the next couple of pages and what you can find in this information. It also provides department acronyms, since space, as you can tell, is limited on some of the pages. And so we did have to shorten some of our departments. And so there's an E here. And so for each of our goal areas, we also provided key terms that were specific, the definitions to key terms specific to those areas. And also some helpful materials that we found as we reviewed. For example, the continuum of cultural competency was something that we discussed as, hey, this is a really good value add for this section as we're talking about cultural humility and cultural competency. So from here, we've got our kind of deeper dive into workforce and work environment. And you can see under each of the sub areas, we have our strategies and then our benchmarks. And then what the city's role is, who the department leaders and partners and supporters are, and then generally just where we're at with those status reports. With the idea that, again, we'll take a look at what we do on a yearly basis and update those status reports and update our baselines to reflect any progress that's been done at the city. So this provides, again, the strategies and the benchmarks. And then once we get through all of those at a high level, we get into the details of where we're at today. So for each one of those benchmarks, we have a baseline that talks about all of the things that the city has been involved in over the last couple of years. And if there's any data that supports and information that supports, where to find it in the appropriate appendix. So I won't go through every single page of this, but this repeats for all of our goal areas. And then finally, we have our appendix. We did not get a review this last time, but I did just want to highlight all of the information that we included so far in our appendices. So we have our OFM glossary, like I mentioned. All of that information is here, so individuals can read everything that OFM has wonderfully put together. There are a lot of really good information and links and footnotes in here, and so they can take a look at, you know, some additional information as part of the plan. In addition, we also added the ordinance that created the Commission on Equity, so community members can understand again what this body was set up to do and how you all are accomplishing the things you were set up to do through this document. We also added every single meeting that we had as a Commission on Equity, where we talked about the draft diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging strategic plan. So community members, if they wanted to, could go relive every time we had a conversation. And I think the important thing about this really is not only is it accessible, but also that we've talked about this 22 times over the last 3 years as we've worked and progressed through our planning process.
A lot of sticky notes.
Yes, there's a multicolored tree out there that needs a
I
rest.
think it's so important to point out, just to emphasize that, how much in the public meetings and forums and public opportunities there have been that you guys worked to develop this plan and get feedback. I think a lot of people see this for the first time, say, wait, where'd this come from? But there's a lot of work that was done out in the public and with the public to do this. So I think that this is a good piece to have in there.
We also included in the appendix, the information that we went over with applicant and staff demographics. So this is referenced in our baseline, so people could open this up and get more information at the end to talk about here in 2024 with the conditions that we have, knowing that we have some limiting conditions right now as far as data collection. Here's the best information we have, and we want to work in the next couple of years at really improving this so that we can show the community where we're at with our staff and then also the application process. So it's got all of the charts that we previously reviewed included in here, which breaks down, you know, for example, comparison of race with staff to the city itself. It also breaks down into more detail such as management, non-management positions. It shows the same comparisons with sex. And then provides all of this information in a variety of ways. Moving to the next appendix, any minute here. We also included information as part of this on police department data, knowing that the chief has put together several presentations specific to the police department. So we included his information as well as some of the charts he's put together to show again where the police department is here in 2024. For Appendix E, we included all of the information on our advisory board stipend program and our demographic survey of our advisory boards. So this is all information we have reviewed, but similarly to the other appendix, it provides a good comparison to the city of a whole to see, you know, where we are here in 2024 of reflecting the community on our advisory boards. It also provides information in Appendix F on our Lacey Cares and Parks survey demographics, just to show, again, historically, what kind of demographic information and how our surveys align with our community members and where there might be some underrepresentation. So we provided some information and data on that. And then we also provided a list in Appendix G of all of the non-City of Lacey initiated events that city staff attended in 2023. And this reflects one of the questions about getting out it more in the community and it not being just city events, but participating in other entities and organizations events as well. And then also included in Appendix H are language line interpretation services and how many minutes we have had as a city. This is our, again, our frontline staff and our police department staff accessing language line. So that way community members can have conversations in languages of their choice. And really just highlighting that this resource continues to grow as we've had it now for our 4th year here at the City of Lacey. We included in Appendix I, the existing pedestrian network and bicycle network. This is from our Lacey pedestrian and bicycle plan. So there's also links to this as well in the baseline that we've had. So community members can understand as far as accessibility, where we have currently our multimodal options in the city. We included the existing bicycle network as well, like I mentioned, and then also included the Appendix J as the heat map that we talked about, and our Washington environmental health disparities map, which is part of one of the baselines as well. So commissioners, with that, that is a very quick overview of all of the work that this group has been working on for the last 3 years. And our recommendation here tonight is to get any additional feedback. We have a couple of design things that we need to just clean up, but our recommendation is to move forward and recommend that the Lacey City Council review this and to adopt the draft diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan.
So moved.
Second. With pleasure.
Any other discussion before we take a vote on that one? This is option 1, right?
That is correct.
Just a comment. I'm so proud of us. I mean, as I talk to the other equity commissions and equity folk around the county, they are struggling. And there are different levels of, and when I talk about where we are and some of the things we're doing and how far into the weeds we've allowed ourselves to get into, they're just in awe. So to our staff,
Staff is amazing.
our whole commission, I'm proud of us. I'm proud of Lacey, and they put the money where the mouth was. They put some staff to it, time and energy, and it wasn't just rhetoric. Back then, that early stage, the part of how this all began, starting out just wanted to break bread together and said, no, we're past just breaking bread. It's time to, so this is impressive and awesome.
And I honor the commitment of all the commissioners and the staff to just keep working on this and producing such a dynamite
Yeah, and I think
document,
some credit should go
useful.
to the mayor for really pushing this. He's pretty proud of the fact that he pushed for equity commission and was able to have us be established and functioning. So I think hats off to him and to the city council for the support they've given us over the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, they've been at events, they've participated, they've given us feedback, and it's been a good partnership working with them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been saying how proud and a lot of kudos to all teams that we really carried out our commitment that we made initially, and every single one kind of kept up one way or the other. So yeah, I'm all ditto to everything that you guys said.
Yeah, now special thanks to
me?
Shannon. She's been with us.
Yes, absolutely.
She's gone through, I'm sure, lots of frustrations with us.
Yes.
Yes.
And holding.
And shaking her head, going, my goodness, why are they going down that rabbit hole? But
Yeah.
she's really,
She's right
Yeah,
she
there
was
with us.
right with us. She's been so supportive. She's been a great, advisor and guide as we went through this. So you know, I think, you know, we should give her a promotion. Oh, sorry.
Assistant city manager and all.
Yeah, yeah, you can-
I don't think it'll
Yeah, go to it.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time, I think, but, yeah, absolutely. All those reminder emails, text messages and accommodating us, absolutely.
Great job.
As much work as this has been, the work is just beginning.
But this is such a good guide.
Yes.
Guide.
Yeah, really solid foundation. I think here we can kind of go, keep building, keep moving.
Well, with that, shall we take a vote on accepting option number 1 to recommend that this goes to the Lacey City Council to be reviewed and adopted? All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so moved.
Well, thank you, commissioners.
No big deal. I had an idea, at some point, the original equity work group, wouldn't they love to look at this?
yes.
Would be nice to be able to bring it forward to them.
We can
Who's
absolutely.
original equity work group?
They're on this page.
Oh, okay, so those group that you were part of and then Mustaf?
That group,
Okay.
Bishop,
Nam and.
Bishop Peterson just happens to be in town this week from Georgia. I'd love to share this with him. Yeah, he said, how's it going? He just asked me today, how's it going, Thelma? This is great.
Okay, next item of business, commissioners report, the Juneteenth celebration. Commissioner Brown,
Well,
give us a report.
yes, I just want to, you know, thank the committee, the planning committee for planning an excellent Juneteenth this year. And I'm sure you saw a few things different this year. One is that we wanted to include the youth in this celebration. And so you saw the young troop hosting the colors and return the colors. You know, that was intentional to bring more young people into it. We saw the performances by the River Ridge, you know, and Nisqually Middle School, I believe it was, performances. And once again, that was intentional to bring more young faces to the celebration. And so with that, you know, I'm really happy that the Fred U. Harris Lodge has adopted and were open to those types of things. The increase in the number of information booths, all those things that I think just made for an excellent Juneteenth, you know, celebration. The weather was a challenge, but the Northwesterners, you know, they stuck it out. You know, it was pouring rain and people just standing out in the rain because they were used to it, you know, and then it go away, the sun would come out, you know, and then it'd rain again, you know. So, but, you know, we stuck it out. It was just a typical Northwest day, you know, no big deal. I'm sure that cut down the numbers a little bit, but when the sun came out, the food line got real long. When it rained, it got short. So people were in and out throughout the day. I thought it was an excellent event. You know, the lodge did a great job, and all of the volunteers, Donna and did a great job, and Jenny and the park staff, you know, they were excellent. They were responsive, you know, say, hey, I need a tent. Boom, they went and found a tent. Hey, we need a hammer for the new light tent. They went and found a big old hammer, you know, for them to do things. So they were just very responsive, and it just turned out to be, you know, a great event.
So I saw what I thought I would see, that I saw a lot of people And that's like a true inclusion and celebration of community event together. And that's supposed to be, and it just simply wonderful. I mean, where are you gonna get that wonderful food for free with smiling faces, people talking to each other? It was just amazing. And I think that kind of like what you kind of pictured originally, where we wanted it to be kind of community celebration, community event, and it became like that when I saw a lot of people mingling and talking
And dancing.
yeah. In the rain.
Yes.
So, yeah, it was absolutely just a fantastic event.
Commissioner Brown, when does planning start again?
I'm afraid too soon.
Do it again, twice a year.
So we have to talk about a Miss Juneteenth pageant, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New ideas.
Well, I can say from the city's perspective, Fred U. Harris Lodge has been just so fantastic to work with. And, you pointed out, Commissioner, how every year it's grown, not only in number of like meals served, but in the community members who are participating. You mentioned, hey, last year we had around, I think, 11 booths. This year, I think you're right, it was 24. And it was incredible. I mean, it was a full circle of information about the community. Just amazing to see.
Yeah.
And a huge diversity among those information groups. So that was, I thought was really good.
It's getting picked up in statewide media announcements now. I saw that too.
Oh, really?
Thank you for all your effort you put in.
Too much volunteering.
Someone saying no to them?
Yeah, it was great to see those small children volunteering, serving food and helping folks, and I thought that was just everything around. It's great.
I would like to extend an invitation. This weekend is Pride weekend, and there's a great there's two days on Saturday, 11 to 6 down at the Port Plaza is all the music and art and gathering resources. Again, a lot of resource tents happen down there. It's Port Plaza. Love to see you all down there. Way down by Anthony's.
Yeah, okay.
There's a nice
Yeah.
area for music and stage. And then the Pride Parade is 11 o'clock on Sunday, the 30th. And it's from Tivoli Fountain all the way down to the Heritage Park. And it is just such a celebration of community, of the gay community and allies. There are, high school students, there are teachers, there are, bands playing, and I will be near the McConey's sandwich shop because there's shade there. So if anyone wants to show up, that's where I'm gonna be. But
You got your spot already, huh?
it's a huge celebration of people being who they really are, authentic, so. Any other commissioners? Reports or announcements? Director report, Park Improvement Fund.
Well, thank you, Chair. And maybe just before I jump into this item, I would be curious if Commissioner Sauer, if you could share a little bit about the Korean War Memorial event. I had the opportunity to attend it, and I mean, other than the weather, it was a beautiful ceremony, so.
Yes, other than the weather, it was very interesting. Luckily, we had a tent. But yeah, during the ceremony, it rained and wind, storm it blew all flowers. There's several flowers there in the tripod, and it all blew, and then soldiers stood up and they stood with flower in that rain. And it was quite long time of steady rain, and I was very worried about them, but no, those soldiers were just shining for their what they did. It was well attended. I saw more Merit and Marsha and other folks. A lot of non-Korean people came and attended. So yeah, it was a great event. I wanted to see more of community kind of join that, commemoration of that memorable event. It's not a forgotten war by any mean, and the person who emceed the event, his grandfather is still missing in the Korean War. And he happens to be a Black soldier who there was a great contribution from that unit. It's all Black unit, white man commander, and they fought and fiercely. But I think some of those things that we didn't know about, that the unit got dissolved afterward, but what they did obviously stood up, and especially that his grandfather is still missing in action after all these years. So history is still there. And then the speakers, senators and representative and all those folks who spoke, obviously they never been to Korea, but their grandparents, their father, they all fought in Korea. So how we are actually more connected than you thought. Because if I just saw them, I would have never thought that we have that kind of connection. So.
My father was on active duty during the Korean War.
Thank you so much.
Just passed last year. He was 91. He did serve during that time.
So I'm proud of the fact that their contribution wasn't wasted. If you look at Korea now, they at that time we were one of the poorest country in the world. Now we're like 6th or 12th biggest economy, and that we are constantly appreciating the fact that we received a lot of help to get to where we are. So thank you so much.
Well, you weren't just poor, it's just the Japanese who took everything from you.
It's interesting that I worked up around that when I was a carpenter for the state. That was one of my areas. And the statues, the statuary, they're all in raincoats and they're all down, just like that. It was very interesting that it rained.
Yeah.
During your celebration.
So a lot of people don't realize how cold Korea can get. And one of the worst enemy was cold, more so than the enemy itself, because there were instantly you could get freeze. I mean, it was that cold in 1950. And really sorry, going back to history, General MacArthur thought he could beat North Korea in just overnight. He totally underestimated them, and he didn't prepare the soldiers for the coming season. So they weren't properly dressed. They were still, he said that you'll be home by Thanksgiving. And he wasn't preparing them properly. Of course, he learned by, very, very hard way that the Asian soldiers don't fight like Western soldiers. They don't wake up and go to war. It was all kinds of tactics, and basically it went more than 3 years. And a lot of casualties, and a lot of soldiers died in very, very horrific way. So thank you for mentioning that, and thank you so much for attending. And it was a busy day for you. It was for me too.
Me too, I didn't make it, yeah. There's multiple things going on at the same time everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, for inviting us and for providing the update on it. The last item I do have under my director's report is on a park improvement funding work group. So this is a ad hoc advisory board that the Lacey City Council has established. And its task is to review park expansion and replacement projects that are identified in our Parks Comprehensive Plan. So I know this group remembers the Parks Comprehensive Plan, and having Jen come in and talk about, how we integrate equity into that plan, and then to discuss like all of the projects that were anticipated as part of it and how to communicate and reach out to our community. So as part of that, they'll be taking a look at all of those projects that are identified in that plan and then taking a look at types of funding that could be available currently and maybe funding options that might exist outside of the current structure and making a recommendation to the Lacey City Council on a funding package. So as part of this advisory work group, there are a number of just general community members that the council is looking to engage with. Specifically, community members from the city of Lacey as well as our urban growth area, some youth members in addition. And they're also just looking for a wide variety of perspectives and voices, people who have park users or maybe a finance background or play sports or have their kids play sports. So they're looking for just a wide net of individuals to participate on this advisory board. And they're gonna have voting members. So they're looking to establish a board of at least 13 individuals and at least 7 of them to be voting members. They're also looking for some ex officio members to be a part of the conversation. And they've indicated that they'd like to have some advisory board representation on this work group. And so my question for you all here tonight, and I can certainly provide this group with a little bit more email with the resolution talking about what they're set up to do, so you all can take a look at this, would be that, is there a member of the Commission on Equity who may be interested in serving on this ad hoc park improvement funding work group? Should the council proceed with a representative from the Commission on Equity? And I don't know, at this point in time, commissioners, what time it would be held at or what the meeting frequency is. What I can say is that we're hoping to get it started by August and to go through this process pretty quickly. So it could look like, more meetings than what we currently have, which is once a month. There could be, meetings twice a month as we're getting all the information, talking and having discussions and setting the foundation in order to make, decisions and recommendations for the Lacey City Council moving forward. Rick, is there anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, so right now we're as Shannon mentioned, we're forming this work group, 7 to 13 members, as she said, at least 7 being voting. And the council has formed a subcommittee, Councilor Vasquez, Councilor Greenstein, and Councilor Denny, who will do the recommendation to the council for appointments. They'll do the application screening and potentially interviews. Kind of a tight time frame. They're looking at reviewing those applications somewhere around the second week of July and having interviews throughout the rest of July with an appointment recommendation to the council in August, early August. And so it's a condensed time frame, but it's going to be even more challenging in the sense that I think we have over 35 applicants. The last time I checked, 41 now. 41 applicants. So there's been a lot of interest in the community to serve on this work group, which is a great thing. So if we are able to get through that process and get appointments set up, we're looking at mid to late August to be one of the first meetings, setting up a schedule, 8 to 10 meetings to be, the goal is to try to get a recommendation to council sometime in November or December so that they can take a look at that and see if they want to take any actions depending on the recommendation of this work group in 2025. So it is a compressed time frame, but it is an important step and process because we do have a very robust list of parks capital investment program for out to 2029 and trying to figure out a way to bring those park facilities to the community and what are those facilities that the community would like to see happen first. So
That includes the youth and community center.
yes. And you have a lot of underserved areas in the community and the UGA as well. And so anticipating that too. And the council really is focused on trying to get a broad diversity of perspectives on the work group from parks users, families, retirees, active sport representation, passive usage, even if there's non-park users, if there are, they'll use the parks, but trying to get a good perspective to take a look at this and provide that recommendation on funding strategies.
Commissioner Hedgewood, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I was gonna say if I would be interested in being one of the members from the commission to do that.
That wraps up my report unless there's any more discussion on that item. Thank you, Commissioner Hedgewood.
Right, any other business to take care of? Think we might have done it. Hearing none, I will adjourn. 7:49. 7:49.